I don't believe anyone has a fear of speaking, but people have more a fear of judgment. When you think people may judge you, that's when you struggle. When I do public speaking, I don't overthink because I know what I'm speaking about. I speak from an intuitive part of my brain, I'm okay. When I'm networking, I overthink. The biggest mistake I ever made was trusting someone who I thought was a friend. My biggest personal branding tip, especially for entrepreneurs, is rather than telling people what to do, you should speak about what you did. What happens, which annoys me a lot, is that people achieve a certain level of success and then they sell courses on how other people can achieve the same level of success. In life, when you stop focusing on what you want, what you don't want automatically takes over.
No Bullshit Talks is a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. There's too much bullshit out there, especially when it comes to business. This podcast aims to highlight what's true and what's not in the world of entrepreneurship, bringing you honest and raw conversations about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship. Each week, my guest will be a high-performing entrepreneur sharing the ups and downs of their journey and helping you prepare for the road ahead, while providing you with actionable insights and absolute gems of knowledge. Stay tuned as I introduce this week's guest. Frederick Afrifa is the founder of Believing Greatness, a public speaking and communication coaching business. He moved to the UK at the age of 12, not speaking a single word of English, and went on to become a 2-time national sprint champion. He was a contestant on Series 19 of The Apprentice and has just been named a judge for the Speaker Awards 2026. I present to you this week's guest, Frederick Afrifa. Welcome, Fred, to No Bullshit Talks.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you on. I feel like, we've had loads of interesting conversations, but we haven't fully sat down and actually talked things through. So it'd be really nice to actually do it on air. But for those people who don't know you, do you want to do a bit of an intro for yourself?
Yes, so my name is Frederick Afrifa, otherwise known as Fred. What I do now is I teach people how to speak in high-pressured situations. It's been a real journey to get here, which I'm sure we'll get through. But yeah, most people know me from The Apprentice. I was on TV last year. That was super scary, but it was great. And yeah, pretty much living a dream right now.
Ah, that's such a nice intro, living the dream. I feel like, a lot of people tell me that my brand, No Bullshit, is negative. Loads of people say this because I'm calling out the bullshit, right? I'm saying things how they really are. And the reality is, things aren't always great. So sometimes it might come across negative because I'm being a realist. But that's not what it's about. The no bullshit is being a realist, but also then preparing yourself for that real stuff so that you can be as successful as possible knowing all the real truth. And it's I don't want everyone to just be like, oh, life is so easy. You said you're living the dream right now, which is amazing. And it's so good to hear. And I also love my life right now. And it's great to be in that positive place, but it's not always that positive,
100%.
is it? And it's not always just been like that journey, which loads of people say. So it's really nice to hear a positive intro, but it's also great to have you on that's going to be really real about it. I'm definitely obviously going to ask you about Apprentice, obviously. But but I want to start because you said you help people to communicate under high pressure situations.
Yes.
What's high pressure? Because some people might just think most situations are high pressure, but you could also be at gunpoint, which I'm hoping they don't have to do, but that'd be a really good skill to get out of being at gunpoint,
I'm not that skilled for helping all in those situations.
I was thinking, hostage negotiation, that's pretty high pressure.
High pressure. No, it's a very good question. Mainly working with corporate professionals that have to speak to external stakeholders. So typically what happens is you are very clever, you're very knowledgeable. And when you speak to people you're familiar with, it's quite easy. Maybe the team that you speak to on a regular basis, family, friends, children. But then when it comes to articulating those same ideas in different rooms, in front of someone who's senior, someone who's external, or a big crowd, then people find it scary.
Yeah.
And then they don't do themselves justice because they know the information, they practice it in their head is perfect. And then in front of this big crowd, when they say it, it's not as they practiced it. And sometimes those are the most important conversations as well. And then you don't do yourself justice, and then things go downhill from there.
Yeah, because everyone does that, and they get out of a situation and go, why didn't I just say that? And that's always the case. But I know what to say. This is so obvious, and they can't do it at that moment. What is that reason? Because I think that, when I was looking at some stats around public speaking, the fear of public speaking is more common than the fear of death. It's just like, when you think about that, is so crazy. You're like, what? It's like, wait, so you're scared to get on the stage with other people, but you're less scared of dying? Like, I mean, make it make sense. But people are terrified of it. So what is the reason why people buckle under pressure?
Very good. So 2 points to that. The first one is that I always like to clarify that, though that is the statistic, I don't believe anyone has a fear of speaking, but people have more a fear of judgment.
Yeah, 100%. Looking stupid.
Looking stupid. Because if you're speaking to your partner, your children, your parents, it's still public speaking, but there's a low perceived level of judgment. So you're like, I can be silly, I can be myself, it's okay.
Yeah.
But when you think people may judge you, that's when you struggle.
Yeah.
So it's more a fear of judgment than a fear of speaking.
And it's like, the logic still doesn't make sense. And like, it's because I do a lot of stuff on this as well. And I feel like, if you think about it now, like, we're technically public speaking, right? We are going to be broadcasting to a lot of people, hopefully. You know, like, the more people, the better. Yeah, exactly. But we're in a room with no one else listening, and we've just got cameras. And, you know, we're talking to each other, having a conversation. And so it's fine because we could pretend these cameras don't exist and we're just having a one-on-one conversation. And as you said, most people are fine with that. And I've had a lot of people in the seat, and lots of those people also don't necessarily like speaking on stage, but they are so eloquent when they get in that chair and I'm just having a conversation with them. They go, oh, but you make it sound like a chat. I'm like, but it often is just a chat. What difference is it that there's people sitting in front of you? You are going to be having thousands of people seeing this content and judging you from this content and what you're saying. But you don't think about it because they're not in the room at the time. So how do you like help people with that kind of thing where I guess it's that immediate feedback that they could be like, but, you know.
And it's the lead up. So leading up to a conversation like this, people might be a little bit nervous, but ultimately I'm speaking to Sabrina and then there's no one in the room.
Yeah.
What people hate, again, isn't necessarily the speaking, it's the fact that they get really nervous and anxious. Your heart starts beating, your hands are sweaty. That discomfort people hate and run away from. So they avoid speaking, or when they do it, they don't do it very well.
Right.
So then the challenge becomes, why are you trying to avoid being nervous and anxious? Because people say to me, I'm really clever, I know this information really well, I've studied, but if you can help me get rid of my nerves, I'll be okay. Because when I get nervous, I go blank. And I say to them that is impossible, because it's like saying to me, how can I run a marathon without getting tired? You're gonna get tired, you just have to learn how to deal with the fatigue. Same thing with speaking on stage to a group of 300 people. You will get nervous, you just have to learn how to deal with the nerves. So for me, changing your relationship with nerves is a great starting point. That being nervous is like being hungry or being tired. It's just a normal human experience that we go through. And what we need to do is just learn how to manage it rather than try and avoid it.
And I think like nerves is a good sign because it means you care. If you weren't nervous, you wouldn't really, that means you just don't care, do you?
Absolutely.
So I feel like I get nervous and I'm quite a confident speaker and I'm perfectly happy getting on any stage. But like I still get nervous because I want to do well. Like, and it's not, I think the difference is that I think what I've seen when I speak to people who are public speaking is that they're scared of being asked a question that they don't know the answer to. And it's that sort of fear like of being stupid or judgment. But I think I just learned to get to the point where I'm happy to say I don't know. And like, because you're not expected to know everything at all. And I think that like, so you teach confidence as well, which I think is really interesting. I think that, you know, it's funny because I don't think I'm naturally a confident person in life per se, but there are some things I'm very confident about. Like I know my stuff. So if someone asks me to get on stage and talk about the stuff I know, I don't really fear being asked a question I don't know the answer to because I know my stuff. I've been doing it for God knows how many years. And so what are they going to ask me that, you know, if I don't know the answer to the question, I'm going to go, bloody hell, that's a good question. Like, but this is great. Like you're teaching me something. If I don't know something, this is actually amazing. But also like, you're not expected to, like, I'm not delivering, I don't know, an astrophysics lecture where everything's so factual. Like often where you're being asked your opinion on something and it's like, your opinion can't be wrong.
Always, honestly, I say this to people all the time. First thing on the confidence piece. I don't think confident people as a whole necessarily exist because like you said, you're a confident person, but in certain things more than others.
Yeah.
So people just assume you're a confident person, but no, you're confident in certain activities.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
And it's important to understand that a confident speaker isn't necessarily a confident driver. Confident driver isn't a confident chef or cook. Totally different skill set. So people should be specific. Okay, you want to be more confident in what? Because then once you identify what you want to be more confident in, then you just give yourself as much evidence as possible. Because if you think about, so I'm going to ask you, what's something that you're super confident in at the moment?
Do you know what? Public speaking. Like, and it's only because I think everyone else is so scared of it that it makes me feel more confident, because I don't think I can say anything wrong. Like, I honestly think that. So if you can't do anything wrong, how can you ever be worried about it? So that's how I see it.
I like it.
So I guess that's how I see it.
So next question, what's something that you're not so confident in at the moment?
Everything else.
What's one thing?
Oh, this is actually a really good question. And actually, it should be self-reflexive. I should think of something. There's a lot of things I feel like are just... Do you know what? Okay, let's talk about this, because I feel like it makes no sense again. So like I said, people think I come across as a confident person, extroverted, talkative person. I love speaking on stage. I love public speaking, and I'm confident with it. Do you know what I'm actually not confident in? And this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous doing what I do, but networking.
Okay.
And it's like, I literally run a networking club, right? And it's like small, essentially. And it's like, but that's probably why I do it, because I believe in networking as in having real conversations with people, like one-on-one, normal conversations. I hate going into a room full of strangers and then like you see little groups and then you have to go and be like, hi, I'm Sabrina. And it's so awkward because they're obviously already having a conversation. Half of them know each other and you have to come in and you're interrupting. So it's already that awkwardness. Then it's like, what do you say? And then people go, what do you do? And then I'm like, I don't like that question either, because I do a million things. Like, where do you start? And then you don't want to say the wrong thing. And some things might come across arrogant. And it's like, you don't know who they are. So you can't read the room. And it's like, I think with public speaking, I'm being put on stage because I'm the expert. So I already understand the positioning of where everyone is at. But you have no idea who those people are that you're talking to in networking. So how do you ask the questions? How do you even speak to them? You don't want to come across condescending. You don't want to come across patronizing. So it's like, what do you do? And I'm just like, I find it so awkward that so many events I go to, I just hide in the toilet to break out. Like, I genuinely do.
This is really good. So from my perspective, as someone who coaches people, what I hear is, when I do public speaking, I don't overthink.
Okay.
Because I know what I'm speaking about. I speak from an intuitive part of my brain, I'm okay.
Yeah.
When I'm networking, I overthink. Because I don't know what to ask them, I don't know how to ask them. And that's all it really is. So you overthink things that you haven't done as much.
I've done a lot of networking.
Yeah.
Why am I so nervous on it?
But then being nervous is good. So then you're weaponizing the nerves with the networking, but then you're not doing it for the public speaking. Because you're like, I get nervous and I'm okay. Yeah. But with the networking, it's like, oh my gosh, why do I get nervous?
Yeah.
But it's okay.
I just find it so awkward. And it's just like, and that's probably why I created what I did, because I wanted to create a room where that awkwardness is just stripped out, so everyone immediately feels comfortable, so it feels like you're included straight away, and it's a one-on-one and it has that intimate feeling. And so like you walk in the room, you immediately like, okay, this is a nice vibe. Like you came to a lunch, did you not think it was a nice vibe? Immediately you feel welcome. That's what I want to do, and I want that to happen. I've been to so many places where I've come in, I'm like, oh, they have their own little cliques, I got back to you, and it's like, you know, and it doesn't feel nice. And so I think maybe it's also people are tapping into previously bad experiences. Absolutely. Is that another thing that people do? And they base themselves on that fear?
100%. And often, especially with public speaking, it's a fear from school days.
Really?
When you got asked to stand up and read. And that didn't go too well, and everyone laughed. And from that day, you said, I will never do this again, or I hate public speaking. Then as adults in a corporate environment, you still have that trauma that is affecting you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I guess that is like, it's actually quite scary when you think about how many things you've done as kids that have traumatized you for life.
Yeah. No, it's facts.
And like those bullies or whatever at school, they don't realize how they have a permanent lasting effect on you.
It's so true.
Oh my God.
It's so true.
Wow. So it's quite fascinating. I feel like all the stuff you do, and it's like, but you haven't always done this. And like we talking about, you know, you said you're living the dream now, which is great, but your journey, and you put this like really publicly in your bio, like you were like, I was a delivery driver. And like, I always find that fascinating, because you're like, you were a delivery driver and now you're working with like giant brands like Shell and all these big executive companies. How is that journey been? Because I mean, like, that is obviously like a kind of cool journey. Like I said, you weren't from this country originally. You moved here. You didn't even speak English, did you? And like you literally coaching communication in a language that you didn't even speak. I find that the whole thing's fascinating. So do tell me about your kind of like origin story, so to speak, I guess.
Absolutely. So I think it's very important because, as you said, living the dream now, but I feel like I've had to earn the right to be here.
Yeah.
It has been such a roller coaster journey. So I grew up in Milan, in Italy, and Italy was great. Have you been to Italy before?
Yeah.
Yeah, Italy was amazing. Food is great, weather's great. Biggest challenge is that I was the only African kid in my whole area.
Yeah,
Only
and
black kids
actually, a lot of, and probably back then, it might have been quite racist as well. Like, there's a
100%.
lot. Oh my God, that would have been really difficult.
Overtly racist. It's weird because I grew up in it, so I thought it was normal.
I've had this, and I know it's obviously a completely separate conversation,
Yeah.
but like I've had the same thing, and you're in those environments, and you just think like this is what people say to people, and you just accept it as normal, but
It's not, and it's not until you get older and I moved to the UK that I realized, whoa, it wasn't. Because also my parents migrated from Africa. They're just like, just deal with it. It's fine. Like, it's fine. Just deal with it. We're here to survive.
Yeah,
Don't
we
worry
want a
about
better
it.
life for ourselves. Like, you know, this is building resilience and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. But it would hurt. So I remember clearly there was a day I went to play football in the park, group of kids, and they said, we don't play with black people. Just go home. And I went home crying. I was heartbroken, maybe 8 years old.
So I just think like, I remember like when you said it, I think about Balotelli, like, and it's like, but that's the first thing I think about. It's like, you know, how the crap that he had to deal with, and those, even in the papers, I remember like them having the King Kong thing, him crawling up the King Kong, and I'm like, how is this allowed? Like, this guy is like one of the best players in your entire country, and this is how you're treating him.
Absolutely. So for us, Balotelli, for African kids born in Italy, Balotelli's a hero. Because he was like the first one who publicly had to go through it. Yeah. And he was also very open about it. Yeah. And he was voicing what we felt every single day. So yeah.
And he used his like position to actually for good. And that's why, that's funny because you said that and I immediately thought of it. So it shows you.
Shows you straight away. Absolutely.
Wow.
So so that was a challenge. So it's very difficult to be confident as a kid when you're so different. And you get teased for being so different. Then I moved over to the UK when I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
Didn't speak a word of English. Coming from Ghana, I could understand English, but I couldn't speak it. And I was in Brixton, South London. So then people were speaking slang.
Yeah. You look like you're from Brixton. That's what they're going to say.
And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So,
They're going to, aren't you one of us?
do you know what I mean? I'm like, guys, I don't know what you mean. And I would sometimes go in the dictionary trying to understand these words, and they weren't in a dictionary. And then everyone's laughing at me because I'm looking at the dictionary. Oh, right.
Oh my God.
So I'm in Brixton, and one thing I was always good at was sports. So like I said, I was very super sporty, loved sports, loved football, loved basketball, volleyball, running. So I would always do well on sports day.
Yeah.
And I always show this video during my keynotes of one of my sports day videos. And after my sports days, all the teachers would say, you need to do running. Like, you need to do running, you need to do running, you need to do running, you need to do running. Then there was this one day where the neighboring school and our school had a bit of trouble. I was about 14 years old. And there was a fight outside of school. My first thought when I saw the fight break out was to run as fast as I could. So I ran to the bus stop and everyone was making fun of me about how fast I was running. At that point, I told my dad, let's go to the local running club and see if I'm actually this fast. Yeah. And I was.
Oh my God.
Quickly became one of the fastest kids in the country.
Oh wow.
And then when I was under 17, so when I was 15, 16, I got a call up to represent Italy for the first time.
And you chose, it's because you were living in England at the time.
England at the time.
But you chose to represent
Just
Italy.
represent Italy.
How was it? Obviously, the World Cup's just happened, right? And I feel like a lot of those questions have been coming up again.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the racism post and all that sort of stuff, and they're talking about what countries. And the ones that made me really upset was all the Dutch team and all the way that those players got. And they were like, well, maybe you should have picked a country that actually cares about you. And I'm like, they were born there for God's sakes. And it's really like, it breaks my heart. Again, another conversation for another day, but it really breaks my heart hearing that stuff. But like, again, that's I know sidebar, but like, I just find that quite interesting. Like, how did you decide, like, obviously you got ties to Italy, but how did you decide that you wanted to represent Italy, even though you were in England?
Until 5 years ago, I would say I had an identity crisis for sure. Because being Ghanaian, being born in Italy, running for Italy, living in the UK since I was a teenager, when people ask me where you're from, I'd start a lecture. Let's go. Now I identify myself as a Ghanaian who was born in Italy. That's how I identify now. But at the time, I did consider myself Italian, like fully. Grew up there, went to school there, speak the language, like I'm Italian. But yeah, it's one of those tricky things because in Italy, the people that disagree with my standpoint would say, if I was born in China, I wouldn't call myself Chinese. That's what Italians say to Africans that are born in Italy.
I really hate that stuff.
Honestly.
Because I'm born in England and I've only ever known to call myself British. Like, obviously, I have mixed heritage as well. So I'm all over the place. Like, again, identity crisis. My dad's from Jamaica. My dad's Jamaican and my mum's Chinese. So it's like I have Jamaican, Chinese and British. And they're all such different cultures. And I've got a bit of everything in me. But I was born in Britain. I've only ever lived here, really. And I feel like so connected to English culture because that's who I am. And so for anyone to tell me that I'm not English or British, whatever you want to say, again, that's another debate. Like, what else am I going to be? Like, I don't understand what that is. And I see things like that, especially when it comes to like crime. And, you know, you hear these things where like someone's done a crime and suddenly they are not like English or Welsh or whatever. They are suddenly from their African roots and they've like disowned them. They're like, well, they're not. And I just find that so, if you don't know any other country, that's all you've ever known.
Absolutely.
You are that race. And it's like it, and I just feel like, say if you're just Caucasian and, you know, you're born in England or whatever, born in whatever country that is largely Caucasian, no one would have any problems saying that. Like, say if your parents were English and you moved over and you went to like, I don't know, a Scandinavian country, like, and you were born there, no one would say, oh, you're not a Norwegian or Swedish or whatever, because you could fit in as it's so bizarre and it's so wrong, but it's crazy that we still have to deal with this.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize how it affects you. And like the amount of stuff you've been saying, and I feel like I've had this conversation with people before, and you know, even things like, you know, it's my confidence and people talking about, you know, the way you can come across, people say they interpret it differently. And someone says to me like the other day, like, oh, you act in a certain way when this happens or something. And I'm thinking, do you know what? When I thought back to when they were saying this to me, I was thinking, do you know what? It comes from like all your years growing up. We're talking about, again, how you're affected as a child. But it's like, if you were treated a certain way as a child growing up, that's going to affect how you act and react as an adult. And it's like, you weren't treated that way as a child, so therefore you're going to be active. And it's like, so when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, but you don't know anything. You were born in Italy, you spoke Italian, you are Italian.
Yeah, man. And until you're in those shoes, you will just never understand what it's like. You will never understand.
And that's what's really difficult for even people who want to understand. They're never really going to truly understand. And that's what I keep saying to people. It's like I used to play chess for England, right? And so like when I played chess for England, that's the only country I'd ever wanted to represent because that's the only one I knew. But the amount of people were just like, why does she play for England? She's not English.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hated it. I got really, really upset by it. And like, when I did well, they were like, oh, English girl, Sabrina. And then like, when I did badly, they were like, oh, this Jamaican, whatever girl, like she's, and I was like, why is she playing for England? And it's just like, again, coming back to football, because I just feel like there's so many examples of it. It's like, I don't know if you remember a quote by Mesut Ozil.
Yeah, it was also, yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, he said, oh, well, you're not an Arsenal fan, aren't you?
No.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Who do you support?
AC Milan.
Oh, I was going to ask you when I came in. I was like, are you AC or Inter? That's the first question I was going to ask you, but fine, okay. But like, Ozil, I always remember him saying, because he chose to play for Germany, right?
Yeah, over Turkey, right?
Yeah, and so he always says, when I do great and when I win, I'm German, and when I don't, I'm not.
Wow.
And when he said that, I was like, oh yeah.
Nice.
And it's just like, he said that so boldly, and it's crazy that, like, I just find it so crazy, and I just think that the logic is not there, and it genuinely upsets me hearing, and people just don't get it unless that's happened to you.
It's happened to you. So if you're a kid from immigrant parents, you would know exactly what it's like. Yeah. But if you're not, it will be hard for you to understand. So that was, when I started athletics, I picked Italy. Also because it was easier in the ranking.
I was going to say.
Yeah, to be honest. England was just tougher. I was ranked second in Italy and ranked like 8th in the UK. Really? So I was like, okay.
Oh, we got fast people.
That's exactly. So yeah, that was it. I was an athlete. That was my whole identity. That's what I loved. And athletics taught me so much. I think it's an important part of the journey for people to understand. Because my journey as an athlete taught me about delayed gratification, taught me about hard work, taught me about discipline. There are so many days you do not want to go to training.
Yeah.
It's raining. Yeah. It's cold. I had a long day. It's 5 p.m. I'm like, do I have to go? But you end up going to training. So you start to realize, irrespective of My brain telling me I want to do it or not do it. If it's something that needs to be done, you do it. You train with no idea on whether you're going to run fast in the summer. You just believe, you just put yourself in a state where you have that self-confidence, you just hope, you have that delayed gratification. I didn't run a personal best for about 4 years, a period of time, but I just kept going. So those parallels then translated into my entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
I learned that I started athletics at 14 and I did it till I was 26.
Really, that long?
Yeah.
How was that journey like? Because I feel like it's a strange, like I've been lucky to go to, I obviously love my sport, as we said. I've been lucky enough to go to talks by like, I love hearing greats talk about it, because again, like you said, all those skills, to get to the top in the world at anything, you have to be so dedicated and so passionate, talented, all these things rolled into one. And like, you know, I've heard people like Dame Kelly Hines and like Jessica Ennis and all these like, you know, athletes talk recently about what they've done. But like, how did you navigate like that as a career? Like, it's not like a big lucrative, like a footballer with the big money that they get, right? And it's also injuries. How do you navigate that? Like, how did you navigate? Because that's a big chunk of your life.
Man, especially because I'm on this podcast, I will say, one day I hope to have children. And if they told me they wanted to pursue athletics, I would gently nudge them against it.
It's interesting. Everyone always asks me the same thing about, are you going to bring up your kids as playing chess? It's a very interesting thing.
Man.
Really?
Honestly, though I'm so grateful, now that I've removed from it and I see people that are still doing it, it's so difficult to really build a life from athletics. It's super performance incentivized, which means you only earn loads of money if you perform well. What happens is that you tie your identity to performing well. So when I had the race that wouldn't go well, I would feel like I'm a useless human being because I didn't earn money. I traveled all the way to Switzerland. I paid all this money to get here, and it was just a failure. And I've just embarrassed your self-worth is totally tied to performance, which is terrible.
So you can't even see it as like a progression in the right direction or anything like that, because it's just purely performative.
Purely performance-based. So in the same race, first place can get 10,000. Seventh place can get 500. Yeah. And then you get the people that are cheating or taking drugs.
Oh yeah,
and
there's always some.
You know, and their defense is, I had to put food on the table, and then you're racing them, but then it's not a level playing field. It's honestly, athletics it's a jungle. It's so difficult, and you do build a lot of resilience. And my advice for anyone wanting to get into athletics is to do it. It's really weird because if you want to be the best, you have to go all in.
Yeah.
You have to go all in.
Yeah.
However, I think in athletics, by the time you are 20, 21, for the most part, there are a few anomalies, you will know whether it's going to be a super career or whether you're going to be struggling.
Yeah.
And my advice, if you're going to be struggling, you can still do it for fun maybe, but just start thinking about what else you're going to do. Yeah. One of the biggest challenges that athletes do nothing until they're in their mid-30s to late 30s because they were chasing this dream. Then you're 36, you've got no work experience, you've got no degree, you've got no qualifications, you've got no career pathway, and then you start from scratch. It happens so often.
And I think that's the same with so many different things, though. It's like when people say, like, you know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I always say this, like, and it's even with business, like you're saying, some translation, like, people niche down and they go all in one thing. And the question is like, when do you quit? Yeah. Because it's like, we had this conversation previously off air as well, saying about people quit too early. Like, I don't believe in quitting too early. And like you said, the biggest thing you said, and I really loved hearing it, is the fact that all the things it taught you, so that you could translate that to entrepreneurship, it's like, you don't want to get up every day and train, but you have to because you know that's what you want to do. I feel like this day and age now, one of the biggest reasons why entrepreneurs fail, and I say fail, but like don't succeed or don't hit their goals, let's put it that way, is because they choose the easy route. Because they're like, oh, actually, I'll just cancel on that thing. Oh, I'll just do that. I'll do that because that's so simple to do. And I think COVID really exacerbated this. Like, COVID happened, pre-COVID, everyone was hustling. And hustle culture was bad, but it was sort of like normalized. Yeah. Since COVID, there's obviously been some improvements, but I think they've taken work-life balance and the wellness thing and they've gone too extreme, and now it's just gone to almost like laziness. And people are using excuses to do things, and they're always picking the easy way out. I think that people aren't willing to show up and do what it takes to be the best. They want to be the best, but they want to find the shortcut to be the best. They want to find a prompt to put into AI to do to be the best. I mean, that's what it is. Like, it's getting ridiculous.
It's so true.
And it's like they don't want to actually put in what actually really takes. They don't want to know what it really takes. Hence, they think no bullshit is depressing. But that's just facts.
That's truth,
and they just don't want to know.
On the flip side, it's never been easier to win or to be successful because so many people will quit.
Yes.
And so many resources are there for you.
Yeah.
So, in 5 years ago, I was a delivery driver. Now I'm living a dream. But the no bullshit truth is that 2022, out of 52 weekends, I worked 40. Out of all the evening, I pretty much worked every evening. And it was a period of time that I felt like I was growing. I felt like I was building momentum. I had just stopped running. And I am doing extra things to try and gain all the skills that I need to then be successful. I remember during that period of time, people thinking, like, why are you doing this? But I always thought, I don't want to do this forever. But I would want to do this for a period of time because I know that further down the line, I'll thank myself. Now, if I want, I could work 1 day a week. But I had to go through 2022 to get there. And I feel like people just want to get to, I want to work 1 day a week without realizing, without my 2022, I couldn't do this.
And I think you've made a really good point there, because that is what it is now. Like, people are like, where's my 4-day work week? Where's this? Where's my work-life balance? And it's that and I've seen it so many times. Like, I've had so many people come and go through our company, and like, even my colleagues are just like, they only want to do the glamorous jobs. That's all they want to do. They don't want to actually do the real work. They want to do the things that look sexy and, like, you know, but it's not, life isn't always like that. And yes, you get to do that once you've gone and done all the dirty stuff, but you have to do that at some point. And it's like, even, I don't know, some top people have been doing it a long time. They're still getting stuck in and actually doing things. We were just talking about this podcast a minute ago. Like, I'm sitting here, and don't get me wrong, I'm sitting in the Four Seasons. And I've got all my podcast stuff, and it looks pretty nice, and I've got a lot of expensive gear. But I set everything else up myself. Like, I carry this equipment, and I'm lugging the equipment here every single time, and I'm setting it all up by myself because I don't have an assistant. I don't have a team to do it with me. Yes, I've got teams to edit it and work on the other stuff, but physically be here, I'm having to do all this. And, you know, some people have a fancy studio. That's the goals. I want to be able to do that. So there's balances, obviously, of what I've got to do to get there. But most people are like, you do that. Because when I talk about it, people come here, they go, this is a nice setup. And I'm like, thanks. And they go, yeah, like, so can I like have this setup? And I'm like, well, yeah, but you just got to buy your own stuff. Like, you know,
buy your stuff, carry it down, set it all up.
Book everything yourself, and like do everything, and every single time do that. And then oh, no, that's effort. Like, and people just book into podcast studios, and that's obviously why podcast studios exist, because you don't have to do that. But that is your choice, and they are expensive. So you have to budget up what's best for you and when. And like, most people aren't willing to do it, and then they go into the podcast studio because that's the easier option. But then they realize how expensive that is over time, and then the few episodes that they do don't just immediately go viral like they think it does, and then they go, oh, actually, no, I've given up podcast. It wasn't very much. It was like much effort. So, and that's the problem. Like I said, those people last are the ones that reap the benefits.
100%. There is, I think they call it sweat equity. There's a period of sweat equity that you have to, it's a prerequisite to achieving your goals and dreams. And that's why conversations like these are important, because you see people online that will make it seem as though it was easy, it was light work, but it never, ever, ever is in any aspect of life.
So I want to talk about The Apprentice because you teach confidence, you teach, you know, leadership, communication, all that sort of stuff. But you also got fired live on air. What does that do for your confidence? Like, so I mean, like, that's what I want to think about. I was like, and also what happened in that room? Like, and you know, we know the PR version, the stuff that you said, but what really happened in that room? Like, how did you feel? Because you're teaching it now, but when you went through that, that must have been devastating.
No one's asked me that. That's a fantastic question.
Okay, well,
That's a great question. What did that do to my confidence? It hurt. And I can't even lie. It hurt because, especially the way it happened. So I go into the show. I didn't expect to win necessarily, but I'm highly competitive and I expected to get further than I did.
Yeah.
Getting fired away, the format of the show is typically you get the project managers, you do the task. If you fail as a project manager, you're at risk. But you get to bring 2 people back and fight it out and plead your case. So I lost as a project manager and I said, okay, cool. I look forward to pleading my case. And I didn't get the opportunity. I said, these are the 2 people I want to bring back. They said, are you sure? They started speaking about some other guys, which they wanted me to bring back. I stayed true to myself and I said, no, I still want to bring those 2 back. At that point, you're fired.
I don't know if you're even allowed to answer this. I'm trying to word this in a way that the BBC, isn't it? Yeah. Don't come and kick my ass on this. How much of that do you think was manufactured, like, so to speak? And, like, you know, I don't think that's a bad enough question to ask. I feel like most reality TV shows are manufactured to an extent. How much of it is that, like, you didn't pick the right people that they wanted to be in that bit that they wanted to orchestrate, that therefore they were like, see you later?
So I don't know the facts, but when you just look at it, then it was a double firing, and the other person that got fired was the person they wanted me to pick that I didn't pick. And it's like 1 + 1 does equal 2.
Oh my God.
And then people, they say to me, oh, you should have just got the hint and picked him. But I didn't think he was at fault for the failure of the task. So I was never going to pick him. Now, I think, to answer your question, there and then, it hurt. But because I stayed true to myself, I felt like my confidence wasn't compromised. Because though I failed being me.
And do you think you did the right thing?
I still feel I did the right thing to this day. So I was proud of myself, though I was sad that I lost this task.
And how important do you think that is? Because I think that we must come across so many decisions like that in our lives where you have these kind of ethical, moral conundrums, right? Where you can do things for self-gain, throw people under the bus and stuff like that. But obviously it's a kind of scummy thing to do. And I think that I always say that in business, one of the things I'm weakest at is I'm too nice. And I do think there's an element of that you need to be much more cutthroat, because like that situation, what if you were dirty? And obviously you're on TV. It makes a better TV. Like, you stab people behind the back, so they're like, bring this guy back. And it's like, you know, and it's like all the people slagging you off on social media, but loving you on social media. And it's like, you know, it's all that sort of stuff. It's about ratings. So if you can play the game, it's the whole thing I talk about with bullshit. Don't get me wrong, just for the record, I consider this bullshit. Like, you know, that's what I do. And I hate people who play the games and manipulate things, but that's what people do. They manipulate the algorithm. They're buying followers. They don't engage in pods. They're like, oh, we're just playing the game. So some of that is playing the game. It's playing to what the TV producers want. It's playing to social media. And if you are thinking ahead and thinking, actually, this is what will help me win the show or get further in the show, you could have potentially done something like that. But how do you make that decision as, like, you know, is it something that you think you need more time to calculate, or do you think it comes innately depending on what your values and what you stand for?
I think the latter, I'll be honest. I think it comes innately, because I would rather, in this game of life or this of business, get to level 7 but be myself, than win and compromise who I am.
Good. I mean, that's how I feel. But you don't get rewarded for that half the time.
Yeah, no, that's very true, very true. But actually, I would argue that, because today I had a call with someone at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I was on the show 2 years ago. And he was telling me, oh, yeah, when I speak to people about you or mention you, they're like, oh, that's the guy with integrity from The Apprentice.
Oh, wow.
So for me, and I didn't even realize this, he told me from the show what he noticed, that I built a brand of authenticity, and I was like, that's brilliant. So it's kind of worked for me, because that is who I am.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that is who I am. So though, you know, Nice Guys finished last, which is kind of true, there's still, maybe, I didn't get as much money as I could have made. I didn't win the show, get the 250K, but I'm still incredibly happy with where I am.
Yeah.
And there's something to say about, it's not necessarily about getting there, because even if I got halfway and I lost, when I look back on, damn, I moved to this country, didn't speak a word of English, lived in 1 bedroom with a 3-bedroom flat family, I've come a bloody long way. So it's all about just the context, I think.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is the same thing in business, right? and you probably have a million different decisions. As an entrepreneur, you are faced with so many different decisions every day. And it's like, even, take a normal day, like normal things in business, hiring. Like, how do you know how to hire the right people? And it's like, people sometimes hire cheap because they want to go budget, but then you're compromising on certain things. There's always a compromise somewhere. And I just think that if the moment you lose who you are, that's when it all gets murky. And I think that when people say to me sometimes, like, during the toughest times, I've also had some tough times, and what gets me through it is that I never ever change who I am. And I think if you truly, because some people don't even know who they are, that's also another thing they have to go through, right? People think they know who they are, but again, they're like absorbing too much social media. I was having a conversation with someone earlier who, they are so obsessed with social media at the moment. They're absorbing so much content. And I think that they don't even know what they stand for and what they want. And I think that if you're chasing someone else's goals, you are consistently like doing things that you think that you should be doing, but actually then you're never going to really achieve it. Like you were saying, all those things like getting up in the morning, like think about all the people who do sports or pursue things because their parents have asked them to do it or something. They're never going to get to the top because they don't really care about what they're doing. Like, to get to where you want to do, you have to truly care, and you have to believe in yourself and stay true to who you are. And this is the whole thing about no bullshit, is that if you stay true to who you are, you'll be able to achieve anything eventually. Like, if you'll be able to achieve anything. But I think people keep claiming now authenticity, but they're saying the word, but not actually doing the thing. They're almost performing this authentic person. And I think that's where it gets messed up.
I totally agree. And it's deep. It's deep because then the question would be, and people have asked me this before, how do I find myself? How do I figure out what I truly want in life? What would you say to that?
So, I mean, that is a good question. I guess it's like, what do you want in life? I guess people say to me, what's the definition of success, for example? My definition of success, which people always think is crazy when I tell them, is to never have to wake up with an alarm.
Wow.
That's what it is. And it's like, there's not a monetary value on that. It's not anything. It's just like, if I don't have to ever have an alarm, that's real freedom. It means I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. So whatever that looks like, I want to never have to use an alarm and that's what it is. So I guess, what do I want from life? I want to stop chasing new goals, I think is what it is. I think that, people always moving the goalposts. And I think I'm doing that now, obviously. And I think it's that being content with having enough, whatever enough looks like. I think that's what I want. And I want to make sure that my family are well provided for and everyone else feels like they've got enough. Everyone else feels comfortable and everyone else feels safe and everyone is happy and genuinely loves life. I think that I just want to eliminate stress. So obviously the level you can eliminate stress too. Obviously things are predictable. And it doesn't come with a monetary value. And I was like, you must have a number in mind. I don't. I want that feeling. And I don't know what that's going to be like. But like, when you speak to certain people, when you speak to like even wealthy, successful people, they're like, oh, I still need to like double my income. I still need to get this. And then they're like, okay, so they've got one Lambo, then now they need two. And then now they need like a Monet because they've got all their in their circles with other people who are competing against other people. But do you really want those things? Or are you wanting them to show other people? And I always say this to people. I'm like, would you still do that same thing if no one else knew about it?
Wow.
And it's like, I say this to so many people, like, oh, I need to do this. I was like, but if no one else knew about that, would you still do that? Like, and if you ask yourself these questions, you start to realize, actually, I'm spending time in the way that for other people, not for myself. Yeah. And so I think for me, it's just that. It's like feeling content, and like, there's my really philosophical answer. I was like, what demon is like, but that's what it is.
Yeah, especially as entrepreneurs, that is the dance of being content, but also not getting complacent. And it is a dance, because I don't know it to be a thing the way it's fixed. Like, I am gonna wake up content every single day. There'll be days where you wake up like, oh my gosh, I need to go to Birmingham. And then you remember.
Hey, I'm from Birmingham, don't.
Oh, let me add more context. I need to go to drive 3 hours to go to Birmingham to speak to 200 students. So add more context.
In a great city.
In a great city. But the flip side, it's, oh wow, I get to go to Birmingham.
Yeah. I have this opportunity.
Opportunity, and I get to speak to people. But I feel like as humans, we naturally default to negative.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is why you have to intentionally have the positive and surround yourself with people that, because you just, even if you level up your lifestyle, you'll forget about all of the struggles. You default to, one Lamborghini. Yeah. George has 3.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a waste man. You know what I mean? So these has to be intentional.
Yeah, and I had to remind myself about it all the time. Like I keep saying to people, I was like, I am not immune to bullshit. I do this and I call it out all the time, but I am not immune to it. I feel myself falling for it, and I do it all the time. So, like 5 years ago, I bought what I thought was a dream apartment, right? I love it. Like, I love my flat. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom flat in London, right? So obviously, as a single person buying that by myself, that was a huge achievement for me to do in London. And, you know, I have 3 balconies in my flat, which I love. I was like, balconies. I always wanted a balcony when I was younger. And I think about it, I was like, when I was younger, all I wanted was a cool apartment in London, like, you know, modern apartment that was mine. I made one of the rooms a walk-in wardrobe, because that's all I ever wanted. I was like living the dream. And I was like, I have balconies. I put an egg chair on one. I was like loving it. I was just sitting there. I was loving life. I was like, I'm in my dream apartment. Gradually, my then boyfriend, now husband, asked to move in. I was like, oh. It's most girls' dream. And I was like, but where's all your stuff gonna go? Was what I said to him. Yeah. And so he moved in. It became smaller. And don't get me wrong, I love him, and I'm really happy and we live together. But I'm just saying, it felt smaller. Then my dog came along and took up half the space. And it's like, then there'll be a baby coming along, and that'll take up. And I'm like suddenly now going, my place is just so tiny. Like, it's just, I need a bigger place. How will I ever raise a family in this? Am I going to be a terrible mum if I have to raise a family in this tiny little apartment? And I feel myself doing that. And I'm like, it's the same size it was 5 years ago. It's not any different. It's still plenty big enough for also like raising a family. And I keep telling myself, I'm like, kids have been raised in much smaller, much worse conditions. Why am I being so hard on myself? It's because I'm sitting on Instagram and I'm targeted with all these people in their fancy houses and all that, you know, and I'm just thinking, this is what I need to do. And therefore I'm a failure because I'm not providing this stuff. And I sit there like, when I was a kid, I would have dreamed to be in this place. And if someone told me this is what you get, the way you're going to live when you're an adult and you get it all to yourself, and to my family, and I'm like, that's a dream. But you keep making your dream bigger, which is a good thing. I love ambition and stuff like that. But I think it's then realizing how far you've come, like you said, and being grateful for that and actively be like, dude, you have a great place. Like, this is a fantastic life. You have a wonderful life. And just reminding yourself that you do, and you've achieved so much. And actually other people would be hella jealous to be where you are. Right. And you've got to realize that. And you've got to keep reminding yourself of that, because social media and the rest of the world will keep reminding you of other things.
Ages ago, I forgot who told me this, but they told me that in life, when you stop focusing on what you want, what you don't want automatically takes over. And I thought, that's deep. So if you stop focusing on health, you automatically start losing health. Right? If you stop focusing on this friendship, you automatically lose touch. You don't have to intentionally lose touch. It just happens automatically, which is why the stuff that you're talking about has to be actually tangible, and it has to be something that you want to do and have to do.
But then, like, that same thing, what you're saying about actively trying to remind yourself of the positive stuff, because otherwise your life becomes so negative. And that's why I think there's been such an increase in mental health crises. Because of that, like, we're naturally letting those negative thoughts come in. And, like, you know, unless we are actively reminding ourselves of all the positive things, we're only going to be filled with negative emotions.
100%.
It's quite sad, actually. It's quite worrying. Well, back to something a bit more positive. Confidence. So confidence, I feel like, is, like, you know, a big thing, right? Because obviously that will help your happiness as well. Like, if you're a confident person, if you're lacking in confidence, obviously naturally then lack of confidence leads to anxiety, like all that sort of stuff, the negative thoughts, and that can spiral. Confident people are naturally going to be happier, because they're going to believe in themselves, and and I think that if you're confident, like, again, take all the top people in the world at anything, they're confident. Because they have to be. And they have to be a little bit delusional, to be honest, like, to get to where they are, right? And it's like, you teach confidence. How do you do that? Like, how do you teach confidence? Especially like, obviously, like I said, like you were fired like on TV, live TV, and I was at that confident level. Like, how do you go from that and think, I went from that, and you took something really positive from that, which is really nice to hear that you actually thought, actually, yes, I was fired on live TV. It could have been embarrassing. People could have been, but you just turned it into the most positive thing. And actually other people saw it as a positive thing, which again shows you there's so much positivity out there in different situations. I think I love a reframe. It's all about how you frame things. How do you coach confidence?
I think there are two different ways people can get confident. It can either be internal or external. External confidence is when you grow up in an environment where people gave you that confidence. So it could be friends, family, or external confidence can come from being inspired from other people. So, oh my goodness, Sabrina's gone to buy a house in London. That means that I can do it as well. And that can give you confidence. And then there's the internal confidence that can only really happen through exposure. So if I wanted to be, I'm terrible at swimming.
Okay.
If I wanted to be a more confident swimmer, I would have to swim more. Right? There's nothing you can tell me that could help me I'd have to get in that water and swim. So that's why at the start of the conversation, I said people need to be as specific as possible. What are the things you want to grow in confidence? Okay, you want to be a more confident person. Is it to speak to people? In that case, speak to people. And it can be as simple as you go to Sainsbury's, other supermarkets are available. Rather than going to the self-checkout, you go to the till and you make that extra effort. And you ask the person at the till, how was your weekend? And you didn't really want to do it, but in that moment, you've been able to defeat the voice in your head. Mini point. You walk into a building, the security opens the door. Hey, how are you today? Small conversation. Your neighbor's wearing a red dress. Lovely dress. Yeah. You've never spoken to her before, but nice earrings. These little things seem irrelevant, but they compound. Because what you do is that you get used to speaking to people and you become more confident at speaking.
Do you also think that in some ways confidence can be a bit overrated? Like, 'cause I think a lot of people talk about, like I said earlier, about you don't have to be a confident person, you can be confident in certain things. For example, like compare it to preparation. And I think like often you're confident because you are really prepared. So it's like, is there some element of being just really prepared for something versus being confident? Because again, you could be confident, and like I said, the different levels of confidence. You could show up and have a bravado, but at the same time, that could be then acting you're not deeply, truly confident, versus someone who's just really, really prepared, but maybe not come across as confident. Like, what were your thoughts on like confidence versus preparation?
I think preparation breeds confidence for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things we spoke about, don't remember if it was on or off camera, is that you said people struggle to speak because they don't want to be asked a question they don't want to answer. And I teach a question answering framework, which allows you to answer a question anytime, really. So it's called the PER framework, PER. Very simple. Point, explain, repeat.
Okay.
So someone asks you a question, ask me maybe a bit of a difficult question.
Ask you a difficult question. Yeah. Oh.
I know, I'm asking you to ask me a question.
Has to put me on the spot. All right.
Oh,
What is the biggest mistake you've ever made?
Fantastic. So P is for point.
Okay.
So it's point-led thinking, meaning even if there were 10 mistakes that come to mind, only lead with one.
Okay.
Very good question. The biggest mistake I ever made was moving out of London. Hypothetically, okay?
Okay, so I thought it was real.
No, it's not real.
Actually, I also want to know the answer to this question.
Okay.
So can you do it like as a real thing?
Okay, cool. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so what's the biggest mistake I ever made? The biggest mistake I ever made was trusting someone who I thought was a friend.
That is a thing. I feel like lots of people have that. That's sad.
So that's the P. E, let me explain.
Okay, yeah, please.
Let me explain. I was in school and I was very naive. And I thought everyone had my best interest at heart. There was a friend who was selling phones. Selling phones.
Okay.
And there was an auntie in church who went to buy a phone.
Okay.
So as the kind person that I am, I said, oh, auntie, I have a friend who's selling his phone. You know where this is going. So auntie's giving me 200 quid. I turn up to my friend's place. I buzz. He comes down. He says, yeah, I just need to, there's some stuff going on. Just give me the money and I'll come down with the phone in 5 minutes. This was during year 11 summer holidays. I still haven't seen this guy.
Oh my God, for 200 quid.
200 quid. Point, explain. And this is why That's the other reason. Trusting a friend, trusting someone who I thought was a friend was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made.
Oh, that's sad. Okay, but I want to.
Sad story.
But so this is what this is the whole point of I say no bullshit. What I say about negativity. I don't want to land on that negative note. So I always then take every mistake you've made and be like, what is the lesson you've learned that has helped you today, and actually, what's the good that's come out of you experiencing that?
And that was one of the best things that could have happened to me.
See, that's what I mean.
100%.
Yeah.
Because I learned about discernment. I learned about behavioral management, not to trust everyone. I learned to grow up. Because the truth is that not everyone should be trusted immediately. People should earn your trust. And in that situation, I was very naive. And something like that has never happened again. So it was definitely a big learning curve.
I think that's why, as I said, that, you know, with every mistake you make generally, or every bad thing that happens to you, it often turns out to be, there's a great reason why that happens to you.
100%.
It's just, again, that same thing, you have to wait to actually have that, like, I said, delayed gratification. That's what it is. The rewards for that will come. Like, I always say there's, you know, I talk about a time when a guy screwed me out of a job. He manipulated me for months to steal my job. And I was gutted, but I wouldn't be here if he hadn't done that. And there's lots of different situations like that. And I just think you've got to ride those bad things to find the benefit.
Absolutely, absolutely. We just call them speed bumps of life. But, so to answer the question, I give you a point, I explained it, and I repeated the point.
Okay.
So that's the PER framework.
Right.
So once I teach this framework to professionals, they are prepared to answer any question they're asked. That gives them confidence.
Okay.
Because they have more preparation.
Yeah.
So they no longer feel like, oh my goodness, what if someone asked me a question? Because through that framework, they'll be able to answer any question.
So when it comes to communication and like confidence and public speaking, all that sort of stuff, again, there's a big debate about, I have this thing about entrepreneurs and, you know, everyone's talking at the moment, everyone needs a personal brand. I don't necessarily agree with that, which is, you know, strange considering I have a decent personal brand. And it's like, you know, but I don't believe that everyone needs to do it. Like I just said, I'm confident in front of cameras and public speaking. Not everyone is. And I don't think you should force that in front of someone necessarily. But it's like, if you are an entrepreneur and you want to do a bit of personal branding, and again, you shouldn't do it just because everyone else says you should do it, just, you know, FYI. If you genuinely want to learn and better yourself, what are the things you would advise entrepreneurs of how to get better, how to answer questions, how to get comfortable in front of cameras, or just get on stage and do things? What would you advise them?
My biggest personal branding tip, especially for entrepreneurs, is rather than telling people what to do, you should speak about what you did.
Okay.
So my frame with personal branding as an entrepreneur has been do really cool things and then talk about them. So rather than how to XYZ, I'll tell you how hoping that it will inspire one or two people through my journey. So it's more like a documentation thing than a telltale. That's the first part. The second part is that people struggle to make content and they think, oh, who's going to listen to this? And that's when you have to really just define what success is to you. Because from the bottom of my heart, if I help one person today, I'm good. I can go to bed very proud of myself. So if I post a video and it doesn't go viral, doesn't crazy perform, I just know that someone out there can benefit from this one thing that I said. I am perfectly fine with it, ultimately. But I agree with you. As someone who has built a personal brand, I don't think everyone has to build a personal brand. I think it can be an advantage because ultimately you can be front of mind if you have that kind of business. But I know people that are millionaires and nobody knows them.
Yeah.
So
I would say this, like, there's so many people who I know are super duper successful. They don't have a personal brand, like, you know, so, but I really like what you said about, you know, talking about what you've done, because I think that, you know, you talk about what you've done. You don't necessarily say that everyone has to do it the same way, but it's just like, this is what I've done. And actually you can't get it wrong. If you're saying how to, you could get it wrong, because actually then it's like you're feeling, oh, you have to have a regimented thing, a recipe has to be a certain way. But if you're just speaking from experience, your experience can't be wrong again. It's like the same as opinion. So actually it's much easier. So I actually really like that.
yeah.
So I feel like we've said so many great things today, but I always like to ask everyone the same question, which is on brand. What would you say is the biggest piece of bullshit in your industry right now?
This is the best question ever.
It's funny because every time I ask it, everyone's like, "There's so much," and I'm like, "Oh God."
Where do I start? The biggest piece of bullshit in my industry. What happens, which annoys me a lot, is that people achieve a certain level of success and then they sell courses on how other people can achieve the same level of success. The reason it annoys me a lot is because usually there is no quality control. So, example, I've spoken internationally. If I was to do a course on how to speak internationally, I would have to vet the people doing the course because not everyone can speak internationally. Johnny, who's currently a maths teacher in a primary school, will not get an international gig if he did my program.
Yeah.
But the problem in my industry is that that's what people do.
Yeah, they'll promise that.
They will promise that anyone can do it.
Yeah.
But then when you check their track record, they haven't done an international engagement for the last 5, 10, 11 years.
Because I've never done it.
And the way they make their money isn't through the running their business, it's through showing people how they can run the business like them.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest bullshit in my industry.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that spans from almost every industry. The course creation thing drives me mad. It's like, I see it now all the time. People are running courses on how to do things that they've never even done themselves, and that's actually how they make the money. They didn't actually make any money from doing the expert thing that they're selling a course on, but actually they're just making the money from the course, selling the dream to people that it doesn't exist.
It's so annoying.
It is annoying. And I think I have a separate podcast which is called Sniffing Out the Bullshit. It's just me ranting into a microphone basically. So it's like there's no videos. I'm often just in my pajamas ranting and like talking about a particular piece of bullshit that I can't stand. Course creator bullshit is one of them. It's one of the episodes where I just talk about this and I can't stand it. And it's a big industry. And now with AI, it's even worse because the entire course material is AI generated and it's not even them creating it.
Please do your due diligence. Like, that is my plea for people to try to not get finessed and do your due diligence. If you want to do someone's program, okay, nothing wrong with it. You want to better yourself. That's a good thing. But please look at the track record. Look at their reviews. If there is no public domain where anyone's ever reviewed them, that's a bit of a red flag. That's an alarm. If you can't speak to any alumni that has successfully achieved the results, that is a red flag. So just do your due diligence is what I would plead to people, because there are so many people out there that are preying on vulnerable people that want to better themselves, have a bit of spare cash, and then invest in these programs that do absolutely nothing for them.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because that is literally why I talk about the bullshit all the time, why I call it out, and because I want people to not get scammed by this sort of stuff and realise and exactly that. Do your due diligence, which I can't even bloody say. Do your due diligence. It's quite hard. It's quite a little tongue twister.
Is it? DDD. Do your due diligence.
Do your due diligence. And I think that's perfect advice to end the episode. So thank you so much, Fred. You've been a wonderful guest today, and thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Amazing.